His vision of how football should be run to survive healthily has been supported by exciting performances on the field. The current success of Hearts contrasts vividly with the condition of the club he bought, which was close to financial ruin.
Well, there obviously had been substantial income over the years which had been squandered. You know, before the cancellation of the maximum wage, where did the money go? How could it be frittered away? I mean, it's still a very cash-conscious business. We, in fact, could be one of the most profitable clubs in the United Kingdom. Where did it go? I mean, it was like buying a shop with no stock when I bought the club. The money that I paid, in fact, went to pay off the overdraft. It didn't go to the benefit of the business. So really, in fact, in 4 years, we've turned it around quite considerably. I never realised that Hearts were in such a mess. I also never realised the extent of the responsibilities and pressure, and also the radical impact on your business. Although you approach the business as a businessman, it's also a very emotional thing, and you can't always quantify it in the balance sheet. But my private life and my football club existence is one and the same, and my business. The only reason I've made any modicum of success is over 20 years. I have worked for my business, and my business has worked for me. But it is important to be able to live and compete with it, because I've also got players and managers who are under that pressure all the time. And that's one of the reasons I think we've got our act together at Tynecastle, is because there is a degree of commitment from the top to the bottom. And in some ways we're all a little mad, because there must be easier ways of earning a living.
A large part of Hearts' success is due to a management team which is involved in the game both on and off the field. The player assistant manager is Sandy Jardine. His belief in the value of having management on the park is endorsed by the player manager, Alec MacDonald.
Oh, very much so, yeah. It's very important. Obviously, if there's a bad result, then somebody's got to lift the team and somebody's got to give them stick, and obviously we've got that down to a T. And it just came naturally. It wasn't pre-arranged. I think it's just a natural ability, obviously, that Sandy has got, you know, myself. And it's worked very well.
I think the thing about that is that these young players don't realise it yet, but later on in their career they will then realise that the chance they had to play with players like ourselves and Jimmy Bowen and Willie Johnson, who basically have taught them a lot of things. And the good thing about being a player manager or a player assistant manager is when you're on the park, you can get to people straight away. You know, like say, you see managers sitting on the bench and that, and some of them are pulling their hair out if they've got here. And they're cracking up, whereas on the park you can get to people very quickly, and it does help them that way.
Levine. High one again. Robertson with the shot. Oh, what a goal! Oh, a brilliant goal!
Well, everybody talks about potential supporters. I mean, I get that when I first came to Tynecastle about the sleeping giants. I think really the only way you can find out if you won something, I think that's a big tester to see what kind of support you can bring in through the doors. And really now that's what the support are looking for. They're looking for success. And I don't think there's any problem at Tynecastle. On the lean years, the years that I've been here, they've been excellent. Even in the first division, they turn out. They all turn out for big games. They all go away and support us from home. I think they've been excellent. I think you all probably find that if you do get a bit of success, then they will come out in big numbers.
Nice ball to Berry. He's in a good position. Khalid Thompson. Here's a great chance. He scored. 2-0. Sandy Clark.
In the end, in fact, it's a meaningless investment, because you can't own the heart and soul of a community. You don't look at it as a bricks and mortars investment. You look at it as something which the people can respond to. And to actually see the live theatre of 22,000 customers there, the players enjoying themselves, and the whole vibrance of that in itself is reward.
Here could be a very interesting break. There's no offside. This could show it. Robertson must score. He must, yes. Oh. And he's not praying. That does it. His second constant. Come on.
The achievement of the new setup at Hearts is a benign challenge to Scottish football's institutionalised sense of itself. Football had a humble birth. It then gained and maintained such popularity among working-class people that it became perhaps too big for its boots. It has had to adjust to the fact that the circumstances which created it have changed.
I've come from a community which was at one time a vibrant, throbbing area of Glasgow with the shipyards and the white engineering, and my father worked in the shipyards, and my brother worked in the shipyards, and my uncles worked in the shipyards, and at one time, you know, the population of Govan was 90,000 people, you know, and to be lost and how unemployment's affected the place. I was down at that famous boys' club, Habanero Row. I was a member of that for many years, and the lad who runs that, Bob Innes, has been there for 40 years, and now he's in an old church, working at an old church, trying to send some young boys on their merry way in a much more difficult circumstance than I had as a boy. For instance, when I was a boy, it wasn't, were you going to get a job? What were you going to work at? I mean, you had a choice.
Scottish football, like the rest of the country, has felt the economic pinch. The raw talent is still there in abundance, but so fierce is the competition for survival in the game that teams have needed to become more sophisticated in ways of refining it.
Probably all the directors will be jumping in their seats at the moment, worried about giving managers 7-year contracts, but without any shadow of doubt, as far as I'm concerned, it takes that sort of length of time before you get real fruition to any youth policy. And to me, that's the only way to build any club, is by bringing younger players through, because far too many clubs in the past have tried to buy success, and most of them have failed.
Scottish football's belief in the maverick individual talent, which is the player's equivalent of the small team that can make it, is under threat. Perhaps it is time to put the Tanner ball in a glass case. These days, big teams like Aberdeen go less often to the smaller clubs to find new players. They prefer to find them for themselves, to catch them early and bring them on. The young player tends to be introduced much sooner to the seriousness of the business. Talent finds itself integrating more quickly with career.
I used to go about the school games on a Saturday morning when I started to learn something about scouting myself when I was a manager at St Mirren, and I met some tremendous scouts who have a great gift. It is a talent. Lads like Jimmy Dickey at Manchester United and John Barr at Leeds United, and I learned so much off of them at an early age. So I had a grasp of what I was looking for on the scouting side of it. I had a grasp of how the schools association operated and boys' clubs operated. So I have a good knowledge of that particular field. So the things that I'm looking for are easily identifiable, really. And all I say to our own scouts is make sure you don't bring bad players, because that's so important. We know that they have the talent for picking boys with natural ability, good skill, and that's the kind of a talent the scout has. But they also, what I do say to them, they've got to have this enthusiasm for the game, a zest for life.
In the more highly organised structure of football today, it is important that enthusiasm and zest aren't misused. S-forms give the professional club first option on a schoolboy player.
We don't sign a lot of S-forms. We only have about 12 at the most ever. I think you're allowed to sign as much as 30. In fact, I couldn't even tell you that because I'm not really bothered about checking it. I don't believe that 30 boys could make it. And I know there are many clubs who do this, and I know there are many clubs who keep forms in a drawer and then register players, which is really, I find, really, I don't know, I abhor that type of system. And it happens, but the abuse of S-forms is terrible in our game. But in the main, we like to think that everyone who signs for us has an outstanding chance of making it. And there have been many players over the years here that have said to the parents, look, I'm not going to sign your boy just now because I'm really not 100% sure that he's going to be an Aberdeen player.